What's the problem, John?
I'm looking for websites, but I can't find any that appeal to me. This website is too much anime. This one's not even in my language.
Okay, I think we're probably good. Ready?
This one's too ugly. This one's too boring.
Universities are known as places of thought. It's where we as students come to learn various subjects such as math, science, the arts, and many more. And we learn all of this from all of our professors. But where do our professors get all of this knowledge? Professors are experts in their area of study. Not only that, but they're always pushing the limits of our understanding of the world. What I mean by this is that professors do a lot more than simply just teach students. They're also responsible for advancing the research in their respected fields. Today, we'll be introducing you to Professor David Leblanc, how his research began and what his research is.
Professor David Leblanc is from the School of Mathematical and Computational Science. He mostly teaches third and fourth year class.
In computer science, the last term that students are here, they have to do a group-oriented project with a real-world client. So I spend one course developing project ideas with students, and then another course supervising the groups actually implementing them. Yeah, I like that. I'm quite real-world oriented these days. I work with a lot of outside companies, and it's, you know, sort of that last transition from studying at school to moving out into the real workforce.
He is also the former co of on-set communication. On-set communication is wireless communication tool made for film productions. It is a tool that allows you to communicate non-verbally about the changes a camera crew must make to a scene while they are filming.
I'm now the former Chief Operating Officer. Onset's a startup company, tech startup company that myself and two other people started up about 3 years ago now. I took on the role of sort of overseeing the projects and things like that, but now we're moving to the next step of getting investment, hiring people. They can hire people to do that job, and I don't have to be involved with it so much anymore. But yeah, no, it's been very good experience for me because I got to go through what's called a startup accelerator. So I got to go out and basically take classes in what's important in a startup, and they brought in people who had already done startup companies and had successes and failures, talking about what's good and what's not. So I can now take that information back to the classroom. And yeah, we're working. We've just set up a new course for students who are interested in starting up a company so that they can do some of the early work here while they're studying in school and get credit for it, and then take that product that they develop here out into the real world.
Overall, his personal works help bring back his startup experience to the classroom.
Professor David Leblanc completed his undergraduate in computer sciences at the University of New Brunswick. He then went to British Columbia and completed his master's in computer science there. After, when he went back into computer science, Professor Leblanc took an interest in interface design. He then brought that interest into cross-cultural variation.
David Leblanc's research is on cross-cultural interface design, especially website design. But what is that? Essentially what he did is he looked at the mindset of different cultures and researched how that would carry over into the website design. His research was broken down into two main aspects. The first one he called the obvious changes. These are things like changing the language. Here's an example of a website in 2 different languages. As you can see, here's the website in English. This is the same website, but now in Spanish. Along with these changes, one of the other changes can be text justification. For example, some languages require right justification, while others require left justification. One other change that might have to be made is some languages even read from top to bottom, while others read from bottom to top. So for that change to be made, the important information that is generally at the top will have to be moved to the bottom. The date format is also changed. And all of these changes in Part 1 are automatic changes that the websites are currently doing automatically without the user's input at all. The second types of changes that can be made are focused on a theory called the communication theory. This is where David LeBlanc spent most of his time researching. This focuses on the different cultures and ethnic backgrounds and sees how they think. The differences in the way cultures think can also impact the way that they want information presented, for example, like on a website. One of the studies David LeBlanc looked at while he was researching was a study that researched different cultural views on power. Some cultures prefer to have people with lots of power, while other cultures don't agree with one person having a great amount of power. But how does this translate into the interface of websites? Cultures with a greater power divide are more accepting to instruction. This will result in them wanting instructions to be more fact-based rather than suggestion-based. So on a website, this would translate to, if information is being presented, it is going to be presented more factual. While the internet in today's society is mostly homogenized, there are certain cultural differences, and major cultural differences at that, between different websites. One of the major differences that exist today is in Japanese websites. Japanese websites often incorporate anime characters, or even bright color, into official business-like websites. And this is the normal in Japanese culture. He observed that if we made major changes to a website based on the user's culture, it would be beneficial to the overall experience the user has on said website. He was fundamentally looking at the differences between cultures and the way they think. He took those differences and applied them to website design. The long-term goal of his research would be to create an automated system that would look at the user's cultural background, as well as things already being implemented into websites, such as language and region. It would take this information and make optimal changes to the fundamental design of the website. This is a very long-term goal and is currently unreachable because of today's current technology and websites. But unfortunately, the way different cultures react with different interfaces, such as websites, is becoming more homogenized. This reduces the need to make adaptations to the website for different cultures. David LeBlanc predicts that because of major international websites, such as Amazon and Facebook, that the world is adapting to a more normalized web interface. The only differences that are really going to matter in the future are the differences of the first category. Those are the differences such as currency changing, the date format, the language, and justification. Unfortunately, this means that his research is soon going to become irrelevant.
Students from all over the world come to Little Prince Edward Island to study at the University of Prince Edward Island under professors who are experts in their field. These professors not only educate their students, but they also, as Caitlin said, push the boundaries of our knowledge through their research. Professor David LeBlanc teaches 3rd and 4th year computer science courses. He was also the former Chief Operating Officer of On-Site Communications. Obtaining his PhD from Tilburg University, Professor LeBlanc studied how children learn languages as opposed to artificial intelligence. Returning to computer science, Professor LeBlanc then took an interest in interface design, and then related that back to his original research, true cross-cultural interface design. He has a keen interest in how the mind works, and his research reflects on how people think differently between different cultures. As opposed to just focusing on changing the standard language and region conversions, such as date, time format, currency, and language, his research in cross-cultural interface design looks at how an experience to be had on a website differs between cultures and how that relates to other aspects of the culture.